Deforestation is a global issue. Beyond its destructive impact on the livelihoods of communities dependent on forest resources, deforestation is a major driver of climate change. Global land use has changed rapidly since the 1950s, and further changes are expected. Despite efforts to replant trees and forests, net forest area continues to decline alarmingly, mostly to clear land for grazing cattle and cropping. Land use and topography are important factors governing evaporative loss, runoff, groundwater recharge, and water quality. Environment experts confirm that there is a strong link between forests and water.
When actually we look at forests they play a very important role in the water cycle. The water we have is water that actually goes up in the atmosphere as rainfall and then comes back. So the forests help actually to maintain the water cycle. Without forests, then you'll find that the water going into the atmosphere, the amount of water will reduce. So in that respect, water and forests are related. The forest cover actually improves the availability of water, because as the plants transpire, the water goes into the atmosphere, then it condenses and comes back as rainfall. So in that respect, water and forests are important. So there is that kind of linkage. But also forests help to maintain the catchments. Areas where you have forests, then it is always said that forests are water catchments. The water will be stored there, the water will be released to the river, some of it will go underground, so they will help. So when one is looking at addressing impacts of development and climate change, then ensuring that as you try to manage your water resources, you also look at how you can improve the forest cover to help you maintain the water cycle and also help you to address the impacts of the different changes is important. So for us actually in our water programs, even as we manage our water resources, we have programs to forest catchments. Because we know that if we have catchments that are not well forested, then our water resources will be under pressure. You will have siltation, you will have erosion, and also flooding, so the forests will help to control some of the water-related disasters.
For the link between forest and water, there are two things you can talk about. You can talk about the water cycle, or the other way we can talk about the carbon cycle. But I think you get the intro from the water cycle. The water is an extremely important point in securing that the carbon cycle, of which it's sort of the food that we get and the food that sustains all wildlife and life on Earth is good, because that is the plants, and then the plants provide us with the food in different forms, and then the animals feed on food, including ourselves, feed on the animals as well as the plants that are part of that. And therefore, it's very important that the water cycle is not affected, is not cut somewhere in terms of a break, say in terms of extended drought, in case of excessive floods, in case of polluted waters, in case of any sort of shock into it, will definitely affect everything, as we have dry areas and then crops dry, dry spells and so on. And therefore, it is very important that those two cycles are looked at in that sense, that you have a water cycle that is not affected, that definitely then goes into the carbon cycle, and therefore our own survival and also the wildlife and other resources. And in that sense, therefore, forests, as part of if we look at forests as part of the carbon cycle, they are extremely important for securing that the water cycle survives. These two cycles are dependent and reinforcing one another. So the moment you cut down the forests, then that means the water that comes, you either wash away the soil in a bad way, or it might delay the rains, or it might cause dry spells, depending on the sort of rainfall you are talking about. Especially if you talk about rainfall that depends on availability of forest cover, and the local environments that are being it sort of moderates, and therefore that also brings in it becomes very important that in terms of mitigation of climate change, then forest becomes extremely important as part of the solution to climate change in that sense. The other thing is, of course, communities that rely on forests really the adaptation is also hinged on forests. It's because of the reliance on forests for a whole range of benefits that they get from forests, above what the global community gets in terms of mitigating the CO2 or carbon dioxide emissions. The core benefits that communities get from forests should also be an important point that we have to underline in this case.
Communities are aware of the value of trees and forests in regard to water availability and are conscious about the loss of forests in relation to the declining water levels.
Trees are important for protecting our water sources. In our village, many trees have been cut down. We keep on planting trees because there is no option.
Times have changed. The sun never used to be so hot as it is these days. People have cut down trees because there are limited options to livelihood. The population has increased, yet resources are few. The youth make bricks for which they need firewood, so they even cut down fruit trees such as mangoes and jackfruits. We should be planting more trees, but the youth are not patient. They do not want to plant trees. Our soils are no longer as fertile as they were many years ago. These are all challenges that require concerted efforts.
Nayenga ebyo waliwo omutawaana munene nnyo kubanga nze ngana n'empita mu kyalo eyo n'ensanga nga n'emiti emyangungu ayitako mu kyalo eyo n'ensanga nga ne ovakkedo bamutemye okwokya amanda manya bulooka emiti bagitemye emiyembe ng'egyo nga bagitemye okwokya bulooka ate nga gy'ayina takyayina mirala giri gyonna gimazeewo.